Earlier this week, 16-year-old Damon Jones died after a helmet-to-helmet hit during his high school football game. And unfortunately, this is one of many tragic accidents resulting in the death of a young football player. Awareness around sports safety is increasing, but does changing the conversation actually do enough to change the game?
It's hard for athletes to really understand what's happening inside their brain. I mean, think about, for me, the first 10,000 hits to my head never caused me any problems, but that last one did. We do have to appreciate we have a real lack of education for these athletes. And number one reason we probably only diagnose about 10% of concussions is because the athletes don't understand why they need to tell their coach or their parent, because education has never been mandated, and even the education programs we do use now in some places aren't very effective. We just published on that, looking at what 6 colleges told their ice hockey teams, and a couple of the teams actually got dumber in terms of their concussion knowledge after their education. So, when you think about a young man dying, playing high school football, I think we kind of have to remember that child did not know what he was getting into. It's not informed consent for concussions, for second impact syndrome, for a traumatic brain injury. And so I think we just have to continue to be more careful about what we expose young men to as part of growing up, and is all that brain trauma really necessary in sports? My former doctor, and our medical director, Dr. Robert Cantu, has now saying that he doesn't think kids should play tackle football before 13. They should really be playing flag. And there's a lot of arguments to say that it is more dangerous the younger you are. I mean, I think it's pretty clear. I was interested by the clip of the coach saying they're not big enough to hit each other. It's a pillow fight. That's actually not true. They put sensors in helmets at Virginia Tech on 7-year-olds and found that the average blow to the head was about 15 Gs, where the average blow to the head of a college player is about 20. So tiny 7-year-olds can hit each other nearly as hard as the college players.
That's what I'm saying. That's nuts to me.
And I think we have to appreciate the long-term consequence. We've brought up sudden death. We haven't talked about chronic traumatic encephalopathy. That's this long-term degenerative brain disease that we used to find just in boxers, but now, our lab alone at Boston University has found in 50 former football players, 34 or 35 that played in the NFL, and 6 who just ended through high school. And what we know now is it appears to be correlated with length of career and how many times you're actually hit, including, how many concussions, how they're trained. But the biggest one is just how long. And so we didn't used to start kids playing football at 6 years old. Now we do. And you think if that's a 10-year career before they're out of high school, that will increase the risk of long-term damage, no matter how many great things we do. And I really do appreciate how the accomplishments of USA football and training coaches, but we're still going to have kids hit in the head 100 to 300, 400 times, 500 times a year. And if you ask anybody point blank, would you want to sign your kid up to be hit in the head 300 times over the next 3 months? The answer is usually no, because on paper it doesn't seem like a good idea. And so we really have to decide at what age do we start whacking our kids in the head? And I don't think it's 6.
Well, you can suggest that there was consideration since the 70s to address head injuries and head trauma. There's never been the focus there is today. And the fact is the education and the receptivity to it has never been as high as it is today.
Absolutely.
So I believe there's no question that there can be an improvement made here. Also, when you talk about contact, the fact is, like Chris suggested, unfortunately, and I see this often, but it's improving, is that youth coaches don't really understand the best way to teach contact. And so they really do have to be taught how to construct within a practice plan a levels of contact progression. So literally start with just kids in form tackle, and then move to bags, and then move to a control group where kids get comfortable actually with contact. And the fact is you can teach them to do it better. Are you going to remove contact entirely out of this game? No one's suggesting that. But there's absolutely an opportunity to improve and to lessen the incidence of concussion and incidence of head contacts and helmet contacts. So, I mean, at a minimum, there's a real opportunity to make strides and create a behavior change before we say, let's just remove football together. Because then I assume the next is remove a lot of other sports, remove bike riding, remove all these other things that no one else wants to talk about.
Oh, but Scott, I mean, you wouldn't compare bike riding to football in terms of head injuries, would you?
Well, the fact of the matter is there's more head injuries in bicycling than there is in football.